Tanning. Ashley and Ashlyn were inseparable best friends, known for their love of beauty routines and gossip. After surviving the roller coaster disaster, they decided to relax with tanning sessions, believing they could finally take their minds off the fear. Inside the tanning salon, they set up their booths, joking and chatting, but small problems began to build. A spilled drink dripped onto the floor, a shelf item jammed the door, and the temperature controls malfunctioned. As the beds heated up, the girls realized they were trapped. They screamed and pounded on the glass covers, but no one came. The heat grew unbearable as the machines malfunctioned further. Moments later, the tanning beds burst into flames. Ashley and Ashlyn burned alive, their screams muffled until the final explosion. It was one of the most drawn-out and claustrophobic deaths in the franchise. Missing eye. Olivia was one of the survivors who escaped the bridge collapse thanks to Sam's vision. Unlike some of the others, she didn't exactly embrace. Inside the clinic, everything seemed normal. Olivia lay on the chair as the surgeon prepped her for the procedure. He reassured her, telling her to relax, but the tension in the room was undeniable. Then, small details began to unravel. The doctor stepped out briefly, leaving Olivia alone. At the same time, the machine's settings malfunctioned. The laser, which was supposed to be tightly controlled, remained on, and the safety lock disengaged. Olivia realized something was wrong when the beam started heating her eye. She panicked and tried to get up, but the strap holding her head in place kept her pinned. She struggled, thrashing violently as the machine fired. At the last, the fence. Rory was a laid-back stoner, often providing comic relief to the group of survivors, but his easygoing attitude couldn't save him when fate set its sights on him. During a chaotic sequence near a car accident, a cable from a vehicle snapped loose. It whipped across the area with devastating force, slicing through objects in its path. The cable cut through a chain-link fence. The sharp pieces of metal that snapped free turned into deadly projectiles. Rory stood directly in line. In an instant, the shards tore through his body, cutting him into pieces. His light-hearted personality made the brutality of his death stand out even more. It was quick, violent, and unforgettable. Ruck. Samantha Lane was one of the survivors of the Speedway disaster, trying to return to some sense of normal life. On this day, she took her 2 young boys with her to the hair salon. As they played outside, her sons were throwing rocks at a nearby stop sign. One rock missed but landed in grass near a man mowing the lawn outside. Concerned, Samantha stopped them before anything got out of hand, and to keep them occupied, she handed them money so they could go play video games while she got her hair cut. Inside the salon, everything seemed calm, but the environment was packed with little dangers waiting to happen. A loose ceiling fan rattled above her. Sharp scissors balanced at the edge of the counter. A bottle of hairspray rolled across the floor. Even the chair hydraulics hissed, threatening to give out. For the audience, it felt like a ticking time bomb. Each tiny detail looked like it could trigger Samantha's gruesome end. But nothing happened. The stylist finished her haircut, and Samantha walked out looking completely unharmed. Just when it seemed like she had escaped, fate revealed the real setup. Outside, with her children nearby, a rock suddenly shot through the air at the worst possible angle. It struck Samantha directly in the eye with deadly force. She dropped instantly, killed in front of her children, who were horrified by what they had just witnessed. This scene stood out because the film built all the tension inside the salon, only to deliver the death outside in the most ordinary and cruelly ironic and in a way. The log. The second film opened with what many considered the best sequence in the entire franchise. Kimberly Corman was driving with her friends when she suddenly had a vision of disaster. As traffic moves, the logging truck's chains snap loose. A massive log rolls off, bounces across the highway, and smashes directly into a car. The impact crushes the driver instantly, setting off the chain reaction. Next, a motorcyclist tries to swerve and loses control. He's thrown from his bike and slides across the pavement. Sparks ignite the spilled fuel, and before he can get away, he's engulfed in flames. His bike explodes, sealing his fate. A state trooper is caught in the chaos. He's pinned in his patrol car as other vehicles slam into it. The cruiser bursts into flames, and he burns alive inside, trapped with no way out. In Kimberly's SUV, her friend Shayna is crushed when their vehicle is hit from behind. The SUV is shoved forward into a semi, the force killing her instantly. Another of Kimberly's friends, Dano, is ejected from the SUV as it flips violently. He's thrown through the windshield and lands on the road, only to be struck by an oncoming truck. The last of Kimberly's passengers, Frankie, doesn't fare any better. The SUV is hit again and flips completely, landing upside down. Frankie is crushed inside, his death quick but brutal. As cars pile into each other, a tanker truck carrying fuel loses control. It jackknifes across the lanes, tipping over and exploding in a massive fireball. Several drivers caught near it are incinerated instantly. One by one, cars slam into each other. Glass shatters, metal crumples, and every vehicle becomes a deadly trap. Some drivers are crushed, others burned alive, while a few are killed by flying debris. The highway turns into a wall of flames and wreckage. Finally, after watching her friends die around her, Kimberly thinks she might survive, but just as she slows down, a speeding truck comes out of nowhere and plows straight into her SUV. The impact kills her instantly, until she gasps awake. It wasn't real. Kimberly had just seen the disaster in a vision. Armed with that warning, she blocks the on-ramp and prevents the other cars from entering the highway. In doing so, she saves the survivors. But in the Final Destination universe, cheating death only means fate will come for them later. The crash she saw did happen, and fate has only delayed the inevitable.
That's it! That's the truck that's gonna kill everybody! You need to stop that truck!
I told you again, you have to calm down.
Why won't you listen to me?
Tim Carpenter is one of the survivors pulled off the highway pileup because of Kimberly's vision. He's just a kid, traveling with his mother Nora, and though shaken by the crash he avoided, he seems relieved to be alive. But as always in Final Destination, death doesn't let go so easily. A few days later, Nora takes Tim into the city for a dental appointment, hoping to get back to normal life. The visit seems ordinary. Tim jokes around in the chair, nervously avoiding the dentist's tools, while Nora waits outside. Nothing feels threatening, just another day. When the appointment ends, Tim and his mother walk out onto the street, and that's when the tension builds. Tim, being a curious kid, stops to watch a flock of pigeons gathered nearby. He runs toward them, clapping his hands to scatter them into the air, but that sudden movement startles the crane operator. He jerks the controls, and the massive glass pane slips free from the straps holding it. In an instant, the enormous sheet crashes down directly on top of Tim. The impact is brutal. He's crushed instantly, killed in front of his horrified mother and everyone on the street. It's quick, but the sheer shock of it makes it one of the most painful deaths in the franchise. Because Tim was just a kid who thought he'd escaped fate. His survival from the highway was only temporary, and death caught up in the most public and unavoidable way possible. The pool. After the racetrack disaster, Nick begins to see disturbing flashes of future deaths. One of them is of Hunt. He sees water, a pool, and blood. Realizing Hunt is next, Nick desperately tries to warn him. While Nick and the others piece together the pattern, Hunt is already at the pool, dismissing the danger. Earlier, he had snatched a water gun from a kid who splashed his phone, and without thinking, tossed it onto the control box nearby. When the toy shifts, it flips a switch that activates the pool's main drain, creating deadly suction at the bottom. Hunt, meanwhile, is lounging, unaware of what's happening beneath the water. Nick tries to call Hunt's phone to warn him, but it's too late. Hunt is already in the pool, diving to chase after his lucky coin that rolled into the deep end. The suction grabs him and pins him against the drain. He thrashes desperately, trapped, as Nick's call goes unanswered from the pool deck. The drain's pressure is too strong, and the horrifying moment plays out. Hunt's insides are violently sucked out through the drain, and the pool erupts in a fountain of blood, confirming Nick's vision in the worst possible way. Stairs. Evan Lewis thought he had cheated death. Fresh off surviving the highway pileup and freshly rich from a lottery win, he struts into his new apartment, arms full of takeout, groceries, and brand new luxuries. He's cocky, careless, and completely unaware that fate is about to close in. He tosses some leftover lasagna straight out the window into the alley below, then turns on some music while juggling too many things at once. Mozzarella sticks sizzle in a pan of oil on the stove while he shoves a container into the microwave, not noticing that a fridge magnet has slipped in with it. Sparks crackle inside the microwave, and Evan panics. In the commotion, he drops his new ring down the sink. Desperate to grab it, he shoves his hand into the garbage disposal, but his shiny new watch catches, pinning his wrist just as the oil on the stove bursts into flames. Smoke fills the kitchen. He yanks himself free, grabs a fire extinguisher, but it's dead. No pressure, no help. The flames spread, alarms blare, and the heat pushes him back. Evan has no choice but to smash his window open and climb out onto the fire escape. The instant he does, the apartment erupts in a fireball behind him. He scrambles down the metal steps, but the retractable ladder at the bottom jams. He stomps and shakes it until it slides down. Finally, on solid ground, he lets out a laugh. Lucky again. But fate has been waiting. He takes one step, slips on the lasagna he tossed out earlier, and falls flat on his back. The ladder he forced down crashes loose, halts just inches from his eye, and for a moment it seems like he's safe. Then it jerks one last time.